They hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Hey, what's up with it, fam? It's Hot Boxing Minute, your favorite pharmaceutical engineer turned boxing analyst, back at you with that uncut realness. Hold on, wait a minute before we start. Hit the like button, hit follow if you haven't already done so. Apparently, I gotta remind you guys, or girls, or whatever your designation is, to hit the like button or press follow if you haven't already done so. I feel like that's a given. In the wise words of the homie Easy Raw Boxing, if you're watching this and you don't press the like button, it's kind of like you're stealing from me. Anyways, your favorite pharmaceutical engineer turned boxing analyst, Hot Boxing Minute. The big story that broke the boxing internet for the day, Errol Spence and Terrence Bud Crawford. We're back on this bullshit again, folks. Ring Magazine dropped an article this morning. It was later repeated by Michael Benson, and then all the usual channels for boxing news being broken online through the Twitterverse. It went rampant this morning. So, as best as I understand the situation, and I know we're all sick of the talk. I know we are, but I'm going to talk about it. So, we heard Errol Spence, Bud Crawford, they've been closetly negotiating the fight, going over all the fine details or whatever, which I think is good because we haven't heard too much about it online. So that would make me prone to kind of believe maybe it was going on. So, the news broke about Errol and Bud. A lot of people were skeptical, but I can say this. When negotiations are done in private, which we haven't heard much from either side regarding negotiations being rekindled, that usually is a good sign that they probably are negotiating. When you see boxing negotiations become public news or the stipulations being debated about publicly, that usually means that the negotiations are about to fall apart. And up until the announcement yesterday, we really hadn't heard much update as far as the whole Errol Spence versus Bud Crawford undisputed welterweight title fight. So that's a silver lining in the gray cloud. So the news that hit the wire was that they picked a date, June 17th. So the latest news is that they were negotiating and they're going to formally drop the announcement for the Errol Spence versus Bud Crawford generational talent Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvelous Marvin Hagler fight on April 22nd, on the same night that they're going to have the pay-per-view Tank versus Ryan event. Now, there's a bunch of different possible angles. So that news about Errol versus Bud got dropped. It could be just another false alarm. They could just be stringing us along. It might be a ploy just to get everyone to tune in and buy that pay-per-view for Tank vs. Ryan, because they said that they're not going to formally announce it until April 22nd during the broadcast of Tank vs. Ryan. Plenty of different conspiracies, and it's perfectly understandable that boxing fans are tired of hearing about this whole saga involving Errol Spence and Bud Crawford. I don't blame you. Now, my question for the boxing community is, we all wanted Errol versus Bud, or we wanted it for years. Has all this failed negotiation talks, scheduled fights falling apart, has that, kind of taken a hit on the demand for this fight? Is there less demand for Bud versus Spence based on how much lollygagging they've done to the boxing fans over the course of the last few years? Let me know in the comment section, y'all. Let's chop this up. I think it's a very interesting thing to talk about because when the announcement was dropped online, a lot of people, they were skeptical. They were like, we're not doing this again. I don't even have the emotional output to get emotionally invested in the possibility of Bud versus Spence happening again. I would watch the fight gladly. Judging by how hard it was to get Tank vs. Ryan tickets, I'm guessing it's not going to be easy to acquire tickets to Bud vs. Spence. Call it a hunch. At the very least, I'll watch it on pay-per-view. Hell, if it's out there in Vegas, maybe I'll go get a hotel room and soak up the Vegas vibes in a hotel lobby somewhere. Maybe I'll encounter some boxing celebrities. Whenever big fights are in Vegas, just being there in Vegas, you're likely to bump into other diehard boxing fans and other diehard boxing industry insiders. So, do you think the fight's actually going to happen? Let me know in the comment section. I'm going to remain tentatively optimistic, and I guess we just got to wait as boxing fans until April 22nd, Tank vs. Ryan, If that announcement finally gets made during the broadcast of that fight, I guess then we'll know that it's real. I guess that's the end of that subject. But the other subject I wanted to talk about is Amir Khan. Oh, man. Amir Khan has tested positive. Now, I don't really know what's going on over there across the pond with British boxing, but we just had that big conspiracy go on with Conor Benn. He was, you know, this Amir Khan positive PED test result comes on the eve of the British Boxing Board of Control still recovering from the damage their namesake took in the aftermath of the Conor Benn drug fiasco. They were supposed to have the Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. fight, and then like a week before the fight, Conor Benn tested positive for clomiphene, and that was a whole big fiasco in and of itself. Now we've got Amir Khan. Now, Amir Khan tested positive for Osterine. Now, here's the interesting part about it. Amir Khan tested positive for Osterine after he got knocked out by Kell Brook, which was in February of 2022. Prior to that fight with Kell Brook, he hadn't fought for like 3 years. He was essentially retired, came out of retirement, fought Kell Brook, and then later it was revealed just this week later that he had tested positive for Osterine after he got knocked out by Kell Brook. British boxing is in a sea of hot water when it comes to the fans over this nonsense. Now, I give it up to Amir Khan. If you don't know, Amir Khan he's pretty highly regarded in British boxing circles. American boxing fans look at Amir Khan and all they talk about is his glass chin. But prior to that, he was a silver medalist in the Olympics in 2004. He won a silver medal. He ended up becoming quite successful as a professional fighter and ended up becoming a unified light welterweight, 140-pound limit champion. He had wins over guys like Marco Antonio Barrera, Marco Spadana, and Zab Judah, Paulie Malignaggi. He ended up get beat by Lamont Peterson and infamously knocked out by Danny Garcia. But regardless, to become a champion is one thing. Becoming a unified champion is a major thing. Add to that the fact he's Pakistani, so he was kind of like the second coming of Prince Nassim Hamed. People love Amir Khan across the pond out there in the UK. And yeah, Amir Khan. So it's such an odd situation. This Amir Khan PED test result is such an odd situation because we got the results of this. Hold on. How do I word this correctly? Amir Khan tested positive for PEDs a week after he got knocked out by Kell Brook in February of last year. But the public just found out about that dirty test last week. So now UKAD, the governing body that does the drug tests out there, is issuing a 2-year ban on Amir Khan, and he's already retired. So it's like, what's the point? And what's really going on with the British Boxing Board of Control out there across the pond? It's like everybody's pissing dirty. Not that we can talk because, in the States we have our own issues with drug cheats. But it's fascinating. So the question I want to ask is, okay, let me frame this question correctly. So we got Amir Khan. He got a recent positive test for PEDs from last year after he got knocked out by Kell Brook. Now he's getting a 2-year ban, which really doesn't matter because he's retired. Does this positive PED test put a dark cloud over his whole entire career? Does this positive PED test at the very tail end of his career when he's already washed undo or really put into question all of Amir Khan's prior accomplishments? You tell me. Personally, I think it's a bit far removed from when he was at his peak. So I would say no. Osterine is an anabolic steroid that helps you gain muscle mass. Clearly, he wasn't a big muscular dude through any of his career. He was always a small guy. But anyways, it's a fascinating story. UK boxing in some more extra turmoil. Anyways, boxing community, I'm going to end the video here. Is Amir Khan a total fraud for his entire career? I don't know. You tell me. Hit that like button if you haven't already done so. Please hit follow if you are not already doing so. You know who this is, folks. This is Hot Boxing Minute. the future of boxing analysis on YouTube and TikTok. Peace.